Who has the best and worst stadium in the Championship? Today we're going to be putting Google reviews to the test. Now like me, I'm sure you guys use Google reviews on a daily basis for a variety of things, whether you're going out to a restaurant and you want to see what it's like, you're booking a hotel and you want to see if it's nice, you go on Google reviews to check it beforehand, don't you? But how accurate actually are those reviews? Well, what I've gone ahead and done is I've taken each Championship club's Google review score, and I've then gone ahead and ranked them all from worst to best. We're going to be reading through some of the entries on Google as well, and in the scenarios where two clubs have the same Google review score, I've placed a club higher when they have more reviews. All makes sense as the video goes on. If you do go to enjoy, make sure to drop a like, but without any further ado, let's jump in. So apologies Oxford fans, but you are coming in at the bottom of this list, the Kazam Stadium only having a Google review score of 4 out of 5. To be honest, that's not even a bad score, but it is the lowest out of any Championship stadiums. Reading through a lot of these reviews, it's what you come to expect. You know, it's only a 3-stand stadium. Football in a car park is what a few of them have said. A lot of disgruntled people on Google talking about the parking system at Oxford. That takes precedent over the ground itself, it would seem. This comment I thought was particularly harsh though. Horrible stadium, I would rather go to jail for the rest of my life. Freezing cold and the worst place to watch football. Hate the stadium. Seems a bit harsh, but Oxford, you're at the bottom of the list. 23rd on this list, we've got Loftus Road, home of Queen's Park Rangers. This one, I think, is a little bit controversial. Now, don't get me wrong, Loftus Road definitely has its downsides, a lot of which are discussed in these Google reviews. When you're talking about restrictive views at different points of the stadium, it is quite tight and cramped in there. You don't get a lot of leg room or anything like that. And what a lot of people have gripes with at Loftus Road is the stewards, it would seem. Security staff are horrible people. All for the weigh-in, staffed by stewards with no sense. I'm not going to lie, having a good or bad stewards working on the away end, yeah, that can absolutely make or break an away day, so I do sort of hear that. What I would say though about QPR and Loftus Road, looking at some of these higher rated reviews, I do think it has a certain charm to it that is lacking with some of the other more modern Championship stadiums, but that's just my view. Ranked 22nd on this list, we've got the Blackburn Rovers ground, Ewood Park. Ash clearly didn't have a good experience when he went to Blackburn away. Horrible away end, toilets absolutely stank, only one open kiosk for food and drink. Queues outside to get in were dreadful and nearly missed kickoff because of them. Poor overall. As a North End fan, I think I've done Blackburn away more than any other ground in the Championship because it's just so close to me. I've always quite enjoyed it, but I think that's because we've tended to have a decent record when playing at Ewood Park, and obviously you get a massive away allocation there as well. But in terms of the stadium itself, probably not my favourite, but wouldn't have it down as the third worst in the Championship. Now this is where I've got problems with Google reviews though, because the next ground they've got is Deepdale with a score of 4.3. To be fair, the sort of things that people mark Deepdale down for largely is the home atmosphere, and I do hear that argument compared to some other grounds that I've been to in the Championship. Yeah, it's not brilliant unless it's on a derby day or something like that. But what I have to say about the stadium itself is I think, personally, it's one of the best designed ones in the Championship. I normally try to stay quite neutral when discussing Preston things, but I just can't have any slander over Deepdale. For me personally, it's clearly one of the best in the league, but that's just me. Slightly higher than Deepdale, we've got the Bet365 Stadium, home of Stoke City. This is an away day that I've done a couple of times and quite like, to be honest with you. I think you get a decent away end there. I've not actually been since they moved the away fans though, so that definitely could have an influence on how much you enjoy this sort of trip. But the stadium itself, I've always found pretty tidy. I think you can have some decent banter with the Stoke fans as well. Based on the Google reviews, that's got a score of 4.3 out of 5. The next best stadium, according to Google reviews, is the MKM Stadium, home of Hull City. Definitely one of the best things about this ground is the food they serve there. It is absolutely clear of every other ground in the Championship that I've personally been to. I've been to Hull a couple of times. I quite like it as an away day, but I don't massively disagree with this statement that the ground itself is lacking a little bit of soul somehow, and that to me does knock it down a peg or two. Now, this could be controversial, but Hillsborough are all the way down on this list. They're rated 4.3 out of 5 as well. A few people have a few contentious feelings about this ground. Obviously it's one of the biggest in the Championship, but hasn't been as well kept and renovated compared to some of those other big grounds, and it does have a sort of rustic feel to it. But on the flip side of that, yeah, some portions of the ground just are very run down. This comment made me laugh. Terrible. Could have a better atmosphere in my shed. Sam, who went 2 months ago, clearly wasn't a fan either. Really big, but so run down. One of the worst grounds in the country. Terrible. I wouldn't go that far, and there are some positive reviews on this, to be fair. Like this one from William, an iconic stadium with lots of history, and that's how I sort of see Hillsborough, really. Ranked as the 17th best stadium in the Championship, we've got St Andrews, home of Birmingham. Now, I've not been to St Andrews since they've done a bit of renovation work on the ground. I think the last time I went, you're going back to probably like 2018, maybe, around that time when I last did Birmingham away. Obviously that club just has, you know, monumental plans for what they're going to do in the future, but in terms of St Andrews right now, it is a little bit of a mixed bag for what people make of it. The 16th best stadium in the Championship, according to Google reviews, is the Coventry Building Society Arena. I've done this one a couple of times, to be fair. One thing I would say is that on the few occasions that I have done Coventry away, easily one of the best home atmospheres that I've ever experienced. The home fans that are quite loud and rowdy are right next to the away end. I think that makes for a good atmosphere. The stadium itself, I do think is a little boring, blends into that sort of generic sort of bowl shape, doesn't it? And there's not loads going on around the ground itself, but in terms of home atmosphere, that wins a lot of points for me. Based on Google reviews, the Den has been ranked as the 15th best stadium in the Championship with a score of 4.4 out of 5 and a total of just under 1,600 Google reviews. Still one of the grounds in the Championship that I myself am waiting to tick off, so I can't give too much of a definitive judgment on this one as a sort of match day experience, but I like the fact that it's got 4 freestanding stands. For me, I think they're always my preference rather than a sort of bowl. The 14th best stadium in the Championship has been voted as Portman Road by Google reviews, score of 4.4 out of 5 with just over 2,000 Google reviews in total. Negatives, a few people pointing out that a few bits of the stadium are a bit outdated, but what bumps it up is that there is a sense that it is a little bit iconic and it's obviously got a great history as well, and that definitely goes a long way for me when marking a stadium. Watford's Vicarage Road is the 13th best stadium in the Championship according to Google reviews, score of 4.4 out of 5. Easily the biggest attracting factor for away fans visiting Vicarage Road is the fact that they don't sell pints in the away end, which for some away day travellers, yeah, it's pretty mental. Slap bang in the middle of this ranking, we've got the Swansea.com Stadium. Fairly modern one for Championship standards. Can get a good atmosphere there when the Swansea fans are really in the mood and they're playing well. Derby's Pride Park is the 11th best stadium in the Championship based on these Google reviews. I've always quite liked the fact that there's a Greggs built into the stadium. Derby away though, it's one that I've done a couple of times. I've always quite enjoyed it. It's not too bad of a trip making it from Preston. Although Sam clearly wasn't a fan when he visited. Worst ground I've ever been to. Supporters and the food, horrible. Bought a pie and couldn't even finish it. It was that bad. Don't go. Yeah, you do get some pretty dramatic reviews on Google, I must say that. Into the top 10 we go. Ranked as the 10th best stadium in the Championship, it's St Mary's, home of Southampton. Generally speaking, the reviews for St Mary's are pretty positive from the vast majority of people that have reviewed it recently. Although according to Richard, stewards can be very slow at getting people through the turnstiles. Ranked as the 9th best stadium in the Championship according to Google reviews, that's Bramall Lane, home of Sheffield United. Now, putting my personal thoughts out there, in terms of just the stadium itself, I think Bramall Lane might be my favourite in the Championship, you know, but Google reviews only has it down in 9. To be fair, when looking at a lot of the negative reviews for Bramall Lane, the majority of them are from concert goers and not actual football fans, so maybe take some of that score with a pinch of salt. Ranked as the 8th best ground in the Championship, we've got Fratton Park, home of the Portsmouth fans, and now we're really getting into the best Championship stadiums. I don't think many people would argue about Fratton Park being in the top 10 of this list. Obviously one of the smaller and tighter packed grounds in the Championship, but there's just so much to like about this one. Atmosphere is really good. It's got that old-timely sort of feel to it as well, which I like. And generally speaking, looking through the reviews, the negative ones are fairly few and far between. I'd say most Championship fans enjoy an away day at Fratton Park, don't they? And I think that's a similar sort of case with Carrow Road as well, also well rated on Google reviews with a score of 4.5 out of 5, over 3,200 reviews in total for the Norwich ground. Quick walk from the station, you can go through the city centre as well. It's in a nice spot. Norwich don't tend to leave many empty seats in their home end either. Yeah, Carrow Road ticks a lot of boxes and it'd definitely be in my personal top 10. Into the top 6 we go, ranked as the 6th best stadium in the Championship. It's the Riverside, home of the Middlesbrough fans. Probably the biggest detractor from this one is how much the Borough fans are are actually paying to get in the stadium. Some ludicrous season ticket prices, but generally this seems to be a ground that quite a lot of people do enjoy. It's not my favourite away end, I'd say that. You're sort of on the side of the pitch and then elevated up a little bit, aren't you? But still a fairly tidy football stadium. Ranked as the 5th best stadium in the Championship by Google Reviews, it's Ashton Gate, and yeah, this one will be right up there in my rankings as well. I think you can really tell the work that's gone in to not just the stadium but the infrastructure around the ground as well. Bristol City just feel like a club who are getting a lot right at the moment, both on and off the football pitch. I remember back in the League One days where Bristol City only had 3 stands and they were doing it up behind the goal. I think that stadium really has come on leaps and bounds in these last 10 years, and that's reflected by some positive reviews. The 4th best ground in the Championship is the Valley, home of Charlton. I couldn't actually believe this though. There are only 71 Google reviews of the Valley, which seems absolutely bonkers considering the vast majority of other Championship clubs have got thousands of reviews for their football stadiums, but clearly not many people are visiting the Valley. I wouldn't expect that to be the case next season. I think quite a few Championship fans may be ticking this one off for the first time. Still one that I've got to do, to be fair, but in terms of the actual stadium itself, yeah, I like it. One of the bigger ones in the Championship. Definitely when you have a ground that big, you do feel like a sleeping giant considering how long they've been in League One in recent history. The 3rd best stadium in the Championship is the Racecourse with a score of 4.6 out of 5. Once again though, not that many Google reviews, only 348. I'd imagine the majority of Championship fans are going to be ticking this one off their bucket list for the first time this season. Obviously not that often in recent history that Wrexham have played a side in the Championship. Like we were saying with Bristol City before though, clearly a lot of work is going into the Racecourse at the moment to sort of get it up to standard. With the big renovation plans at that ground at the moment, that big proposed stand behind the goal, and all of the investments going into around the local community as well, you can see why it would be an attractive away day for a lot of people. The 2nd best stadium in the Championship, according to Google Reviews, is the Hawthorns with a score of 4.6 out of 5. I've done West Brom away a few times, and yeah, it is a ground that I really like. I think it's got a tidy football stadium, both inside and out. You're right next to the home fans in that away end as well, aren't you? They split that behind the goal. Home atmosphere has always been decent when I've visited as well. Always thought the Hawthorns was a decent one for a sort of Tuesday night matchup for me. I don't know why. It just gives me Tuesday night vibes for some reason. But based on Google Reviews, the King Power Stadium is the best in the Championship. A score of 4.6 out of 5, and with over 7,300 Google reviews in total. I have to admit, in terms of the actual stadium itself and the design, it's definitely not my favourite in the Championship. I think if you were to sort of strip off the blue seats and the sort of branding of Leicester City, it's a bit of a generic ground really in that sort of sense. But it's modern, by all accounts, a very good atmosphere. But it's modern, by all accounts, a good atmosphere there as well, good access to it. A lot of the Google reviews have also brought up friendly, helpful stewards as well, which is good to know. But yeah, based on Google, the King Power is the best in the Championship. Do you agree with that though? Let me know down below. Apart from that though guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like. Other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.